Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Reservations. I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen.
And today is a very special episode.
Yeah, man. It's very special.
Very special. I mean, you know, this movie is, I think, one of the best of the year.
Yeah.
I love that I haven't moved this yet from the last one.
Well, how do they not know I bought more? Because I do have more.
Because it hasn't moved from frame to frame.
But this is also proof that this is different.
Oh, that's different?
Different.
That's different.
So.
Anyway, yeah, so... Shit. Change shirts, though, so that's something. No continuity errors.
You know, when Alex and I started a joint YouTube channel, we would do that. We would crank out about 3 episodes in one recording, and I would just... The first time I did it, I didn't know that that's what we were doing, and so I'm wearing the exact same shirt in every single episode.
That's fine.
And then I kind of caught on, like, oh, okay, I should probably...
Did he change shirts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I was like, you know what, I should...
So people just think you really like that shirt.
Yeah.
Do you remember what shirt it was?
Yeah, it was this dope...
Okay, so you liked the shirt. It's not like you were like, I don't feel good about what I'm wearing today, and then you have to do, like, all those episodes.
No, it was a dope shirt that, I don't know how somehow I outgrew, you know, this was only like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I grew up. You know what I mean?
But
big.
it was
getting older.
Have you heard of the brand Neff? No, of course you didn't, because you didn't wear those beanies in high school.
No.
But it was a brand called Neff. It's a skate brand. Maybe our listeners out there know it.
Maybe.
And they did this collab with Disney where they did a bunch of like Mickey Mouse ones, and so it had Mickey Mouse's face right here, like his outline, and on the back it had his face, and it said like Mickey, and it was one of my favorite shirts.
Like Mickey skates too, guys. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Because then I had another one.
I'm thinking maybe I do know Neff.
I'll show you the logo when we're done.
Did you get that shit at like Kohl's and shit? Because like they had like skater shit.
Not Kohl's, but like PacSun.
Oh, not if it was fucking 4 years ago. Then it wouldn't have been Kohl's. But
yeah, PacSun, Zoomies.
That's what we call it when Ebenezer likes to run around.
Zoomies?
Yeah,
no, that's actually what it's called. It's an actual term for. I think it's mainly used for dogs because.
No, Ebenezer gets like major zoomies.
Oh, the people don't know there. That's your son,
that's
Ebenezer.
That's my
his cat.
It's my cat.
It's my nephew. Okay.
Ebenezer. Ebenezer McPherson is his full name.
Ebenezer McPherson.
We were like, well, I wanted to have an old grumpy man name, so Ebenezer.
Well, but then of course, you know, he would take your last name, so Ebenezer McPherson Blair.
No, it's his own last name.
It's his own last name?
He's his own person, man.
His own person.
His name was Puff, so his middle name is Puff. Because Puff? His name was, the kids named him Puff. He was living afuera, outside, at Haley's parents' house. And I scooped him, and they're like, I want this one. And then the kids were like, oh, it's Puff, you know? And I'm like, that's a dumb name, and we're not naming him that.
Dumb!
Yeah, that's dumb, and you're dumb for naming him that.
And you push him over.
You know how you talk to kids? And I pushed him down.
Stay in the dirt.
Yeah, I made them scrape their knees. And by the way, only one of them is like older than 3. Like the rest of them are like 2. You know what I mean?
So what you're saying is if you had really done that, you would have been a monster?
Yeah.
He didn't really push down the kids.
I didn't push down the kids. I didn't call them dumb for naming them the cat Puff, although it is a dumb name.
But, I mean, clearly you kept it.
Ebenezer Puff McPherson.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, we just built up a lot of this hype and then kind of veered off.
That's your...
So, what is this movie that you and I are so jazzed about to talk about?
We're talking about The Green Knight. This is David Lowery's newest film. Now, I would say follow-up from Ghost Story, but it isn't because he did Old Man and the Gun.
That's right. That's right. With Robert Redford.
Right, Robert Redford. Also a great fucking movie, man. Like, this guy doesn't miss. This guy only makes good
I know. After we saw this in theaters, I called my mom to talk to her about it. And Mom saw it, and she was like, oh my God. I was like,
it's amazing.
I was like, I told you. But I told her I may need to watch his adaptation of Pete's Dragon.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I haven't seen that.
Because I've been sort of against this whole Disney doing live action adaptations of their own properties. Yeah. But especially Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon is a very... Hang on, everyone. It has a very special place in my heart. It's a classic Disney movie, and it is the first use of this animated dragon
Interacting with the real world.
Yeah. But after seeing this, I was like, maybe I need to watch it. Maybe I need to trust Lowery.
Yeah.
Because he's also doing another Disney adaptation.
Is he?
It's called Peter and Wendy.
Oh,
and it's going to be Peter Pan.
Oh.
And of course, I also love Peter Pan. So
Well, if Pete's Dragon funded a ghost story, I'm hoping Peter and Wendy will fund something even better. So,
yeah, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
it's almost like he's doing like one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. You know what I mean?
Right. Like he'll do the big budget movie with Disney, but then go back to A24 and be like, all right, this is what I want to do.
This is it. Like here's the plan. Right.
Yeah. Because as we talked about in our ghost story episode, man, David Lowery, I'm very glad that you got me turned on to him because Ghost Story was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I still need to get it. I tried to get it right after we recorded that episode, but I couldn't find it.
Damn it.
Because I wanted it that day.
Oh.
I immediately wanted it. I did not want to wait to order it.
Yeah.
And same with this one. As soon as we walked out of the theater,
I was like, I want to watch it again.
I think that's what we were talking about. We're like, we want to watch it.
Like, when do we want to come back and watch it?
But by the time this episode's out, it'll be out.
Yes, by the time this episode's out, you will be able to hold it in your hands.
And cry.
Yeah.
But...
and climax as you're holding it in your hand.
Yeah, just like Dev Patel did.
Spoilers.
So,
this whole thing is a spoiler. Oh, spoilers. We're going to spoil the shit out of this.
This movie is, if you listened to last week with Beetlejuice, this is the only second time we've talked about a recent movie.
Yeah.
This movie is very recent. So if you do not want anything spoiled, turn us off now.
Yeah, go rent it on iTunes, come back. Or go buy it, come back.
Do whatever you need to do, watch the movie, then come back and listen to us.
Yeah.
Because normally we talk about movies that the statute of limitations of spoiling are well past it. So.
Big
But
time.
this, with this being so new, yes.
Right.
This is the final warning. Turn us off, go watch the movie, and then come back to this point right here. Did you do it? Great.
We're proud of you.
Where do you want to start, Jeremy?
This movie is very, and I use this term a lot, but episodic, right? Mm-hmm. This literally has chapters, right? So,
which, as we know, I love very much, especially how David Lowery does the chapters.
Yeah. So, I guess we can just go one chapter at a time.
Let's do it, my man.
And then talk about the whole thing, and then we can go ahead and say our theories and what we think is going on.
Yeah.
So we'll save all that.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about just straight movie stuff for now.
Okay.
I am obsessed with a few of these opening shots. I am obsessed with how the movie opens, with the narration, which is David Lowery and his wife, their voices melded together.
Because it starts very clearly as a woman's voice, and then it kind of shifts into a man's voice, but then it's shifting back and forth really well.
Yeah, it's really, really cool, and I really like the imagery they're using with, the crown being lowered onto Dev's head and his head catching on fire. It's so cool, and just the way he's posed and he doesn't move, and it's sort of this. It's reminiscent of like a Roy Anderson Songs from the Second Floor sort of tableau, right? Loved. And then, of course, I just was obsessed with just the shot of that horse and those chickens and the...
I think goat and ducks.
Yeah, and then the barn on fire in the background.
And the barn progressively gets more and more on fire.
Yeah, and...
as we're cutting between, A24 Productions presents and...
just completely obsessed with it. I just love the sort of we're just going to stay right here, right?
Yeah.
Intercutting the titles, but right here, right? Mm-hmm. And then we get to meet Dev Patel's character, Gawain, or Gawain.
Or Gawain.
Right.
Which I think that is how it's pronounced.
I
think it's Gawain.
I prefer Gawain. So that's...
I did a... Dude, so... Hang on, everyone.
All right.
So when you first told me about this movie, I watched the trailer and I was sold.
Yeah.
From that first trailer. I was like, let's do this.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of digging into the pronunciation of his name, and I believe the actual pronunciation is Gawain, because it's Wain.
Yeah.
Just like my name being Rain, so I think it's Gawain. But this pronunciation we hear throughout the whole movie just adds to the actual story itself. We really don't know how to say his name.
Right. And we don't, I mean, people say they know what the original, narrative is, but really it's like there's so many by now that, it's say his name however you want, know, and, this is the specific artist's version of this story, right?
Yes.
So
we should mention, everyone, this is a Arthurian legend, because during the medieval times of King Arthur, a lot of legends were written. No one knows who wrote this one.
Right.
It literally says in the beginning of the film, by Anonymous. No one knows who wrote it, and as far as historians believe, there is only one original copy still in existence. Everything else has been...
I don't know. And who knows if that's even original?
Yeah, if that's the original.
Right.
But anyway, just wanted to throw out that little
tidbit.
little fun fact.
Little tidbit.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, we are getting to know a little bit about Gawain and his character and, what kind of person he is.
Yeah.
It's Christmas Day. He's at a brothel.
Yeah, my man's having fun.
Yeah. Had a great night, partying and drinking.
With his main squeeze, Essel.
Yes, Essel, played by Michael Fassbender's wife. And I forgot her name. She's an Ex Machina. She is doesn't matter. Anyway, she's amazing. Big fan.
And she plays a dual role.
So amazing. I don't know her name. So
yeah, but she plays a dual role in this movie, but we'll get to the second role.
Yeah.
So
and as soon as he gets to his home, he lies to his mom, says he was at mass. Right?
But she knows.
She knows he wasn't at no mass.
Because she's like, yeah, you smell like you've been at mass.
Yeah, drinking the sacrament,
Yeah. I mean, does that happen a lot, Jeremy? Being Catholic?
All the time. God, all the time.
Just getting your mom to comment again. Really?
So yeah, it happens all the time. And one of my favorite bits about this film is that it is Gawain's story.
Yes.
It is no one else's. And so when we are introduced to the king and queen, the king, of course, being King Arthur.
And his wife, Queen Guinevere.
It's not a big deal, right? It's not, you don't get the stereotypical, like, music cue and the hero shot and, like, the lighting. You don't get that, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're there.
Yeah,
right?
if you want a King Arthur movie, watch Guy Ritchie's King Arthur and the Legend of the Sword. I heard that movie wasn't very good. I mean, Guy Ritchie's great, but if you want a King Arthur movie, go watch that. If you want a dope ass medieval movie, watch this one.
This one. And of course Merlin is also there, and right, a little bit of hero shot with Excalibur, right? When he's it's a big deal.
Yeah, because that's fucking Excalibur.
And it's a big deal for Gawain, which is why it's a big deal for us, right?
We should mention that Gawain is King Arthur's nephew.
In this telling.
I think he's his nephew in a lot of...
That woman's not always his mother in other ones as well.
That's true. She is his, sister aunt.
Or something.
Or something. There's a lot of incest in medieval times.
Yeah.
But in David Lowery's version, she is his mother. She is Arthur's sister.
Yeah.
Or half-sister, I believe he says it. But he is King Arthur's nephew.
Right.
And so it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And so he is gathered at the round...
Criterion table.
Criterion C table.
Which David Lowery will not confirm nor deny. That's why he did that.
I like that he goes, hey man, whatever, if it gets it a Criterion release, go for it.
Dude, I will fucking rebuy it if it gets a Criterion.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Criterion, please, for the love of God, sponsor us.
Yes.
Give us your movies for free. We want all of them.
Yes. Could you imagine?
Dude. Oh my God, man. I would take all those movies off my wish list because then I would have them.
That's
I'd be like, these are the ones I need. That's all I need. And they'd be like, you got it.
You got it.
And I'd be like, cool.
You bet it, you bet it, you bet.
That would be so dope. Anyway.
It's a Who song. So...
so he has gathered his Knights of the Round Table.
Right, and so they're having a Christmas celebration, right?
Yes.
And Arthur wants someone to regale him with a story.
Yes.
Right? And so he chooses Gawain to come sit with him to tell him a story. And Gawain has none.
Yes.
He has no story to tell. He has lived a pretty mundane life at this point.
Yes, because he can't decide really what he wants to do. People have been asking him, like, oh, are you a knight yet? Nope, not yet. Well, when? And he kind of beats around the bush.
Yeah, in modern days, he's an undecided major. He doesn't know what he wants to do. I work at a college.
Yes.
Anyway.
Here's another example. It's maybe a bad example, but
we'll see.
If anyone remembers in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Gawain is in that. He's the one who ends up at a brothel because he's the chaste. But that version of Gawain is a knight, and
right.
he is chosen by King Arthur to find the Holy Grail. Of course, that movie goes off the rails.
Right.
For sure, a future episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this version of Gawain, he's not... I mean, we don't know this yet, but he is a little less than honorable right now.
Yeah, honorable is going to be, to quote Pee Wee Herman, the secret word. Okay.
Because we just...
Yeah, because last week we talked about Pee Wee. Anyway, so honor is going to be the secret word of the day.
Yes.
Because this is going to be his motivation.
Yes.
Right? And, of course, wanting to be able to have stories to tell and a purpose.
Yes.
Right? Right now, he doesn't have that. And so...
He just, to throw it back to our Palm Springs episode,
yeah,
he fucks around and drinks too much.
He fucks around and drinks too much. But
he's content with that.
And I almost want to think that Arthur knows that.
Yeah.
And he's wanting to sort of get the idea in his head that I asked you for a story, you don't have any. What does that mean? What does that tell you?
What does that tell you that your king asked for a story?
Right.
And you don't have one.
You need to get your life together, right? And he's saying it without saying it, right?
Yeah, because
they are very nice about it. They're saying, you'll get there,
Yeah, and
it's just a friendly reminder. You're not there yet.
Yeah, and you can tell that Arthur cares for his nephew, because as we see later on, he's like, "Is it wrong to want greatness for you?"
Right.
But we'll get there.
Right. So we need to put this link somewhere.
Okay. Up in the corner, right.
The scene breakdown that David Lowery does with Arthur.
Oh, yeah, with this notes on a scene.
Yes, notes on a scene with Arthur walking around the room and giving his speech, intercut with Gawain's mother, whom I don't know.
Morgan Le Fay.
Summoning the Green Knight with her fellow witches, right?
Yes.
A lot of really cool imagery in that spiral hut that they're in.
Yeah.
That structure that they're in, the triangle window, and it's also green, which I like. And of course the blindfold and the writing and just the procedure of it all, right? Mm-hmm. And of course having it being intercut with King Arthur's speech, it's dope. Right, love it.
Which I think, didn't Lowery say that took him months to edit together?
Like almost a year?
Because he wanted the timing right. He wanted the pacing right.
Yeah, and that takes time to perfect, and it took him a year, right? Yeah. Just for that scene alone.
For that scene. And the movie's only 2 hours and 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
So I wonder how long it took him to edit the rest of the movie.
Who knows? But this is a very pivotal point in the movie, right? So there are lots of stuff we can get into about why she's doing this. I have my theories. I'm sure you have yours,
Yeah.
and there are other ones out there. But
We'll save the theories.
I love this sequence of events.
Yes, as do I.
And so when the Green Knight shows up with his branch of holly,
Which is to symbolize peace.
and then he means no harm, right? Ralph Innocent, Innocent, I think. I have it
Future
written down.
Rain, put his name up.
Yeah, thank you. He's amazing. Of course, I know him from The Witch, which is
Shout out to our boy
phenomenal movie.
Robert Eggers. Please hurry up and finish The Northman already.
Yeah, and Nosferatu.
He's doing Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Anyway, don't matter. I'll find it.
Yeah, and also, if anyone out there has seen The Ballad of Buster Scruggs,
It is Innocent.
he is in the James Franco sequence, one of the bounty hunters. If anyone recently, as I learned, he's in Harry Potter. He's a Death Eater. He has no lines. That's why most people. That's why I didn't realize that was him.
Because if he were to speak, you'd be like, "Oh, that's Ralph
my
Innocent."
Yeah, and didn't we say he was in another movie that
He's in The Kingsman. I think he was the one who arrested
Eggsy
Eggsy.
when he's joyriding? Right?
Yeah, he's the one interrogating him in the.
I'll have to rewatch Kingsman.
Yeah. So, okay. So he comes in and love the practical effects, love the makeup, love the costume design, everything, right?
Yes, because I've seen pictures of other interpretations of the Green Knight, and he looks more like a man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but David Lowery was like, nah. No. Because the Green Knight is also meant to symbolize the earth itself.
Nature, right?
Nature.
Right, yeah.
And so they gave him more of a tree-like appearance, which from the first trailer, I was like, yes.
So
I was like, let's fucking go.
And he lays down this challenge. So the challenge essentially is the volunteer who strikes me will get a blow in return
in 1 year.
In 1 year.
Yes.
The same blow.
The same blow. So if Jeremy were to cut him on the arm, in 1 year Jeremy would have to seek him out, and he would have to cut you on the arm.
Right.
That's foreshadowing, by the way.
So here's another problem with Gawain, is Gawain now sees an opportunity
To prove himself.
right, and to have a story to tell. And that he is given Excalibur,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a big deal.
Yeah, that's fucking... Pulled the sword out of the stone, my guy.
And later he tells her name is, you told me earlier, and I already forgot. Again.
Morgan Le Fay?
No, the
Essel.
Essel. He tells Essel, I got to hold it, right?
Yeah.
And she's equally as
like, oh my god.
like, what? You got to hold it? Because it's Excalibur. But he gets carried away and he gets wrapped up in everything, and he is so desperate for a story, a spectacle, that he cuts off the Green Knight's head.
Yes.
And I love the shot because as soon as he does it, you can see King Arthur wince and look away because
King Arthur even knows, like... Because in the scene previously, he says, like, do you understand this game?
Yeah.
And he goes, like, I think so.
I think I do.
And he goes, well, remember, it's just a game.
Yeah.
Which is sort of ominous in and of itself.
Yeah.
But even King Arthur's like, dude, he literally just said you could just hit him on the arm.
Yeah.
Why?
Why cut his head off? Because, again, he's a hothead.
He's young, hothead, and he wants to prove himself.
Right.
And he didn't think that the Green Knight would then stand back up and pick up his own head. And I love the line, 1 year hence, and he fucks off.
Yep. And now we get the Too Fast Ear, right?
Yeah.
Which I am obsessed with the puppet show.
Yeah.
With the wheel to represent the passage of time. Mm-hmm. And you can tell because it's at a different place every time. It's a traveling thing. People are telling this story everywhere.
Yeah.
That Sir Gawain struck down the Green Knight, but will be struck down himself in a year.
Yeah.
And where the Green Knight stood up and walked away, Sir Gawain will not.
Yeah.
Right? And of course the puppetry is great, and the detachable heads and the red.
It makes me wonder if just like our man Robert Eggers if David Lowery did a lot of research into...
There's evidence of tons of research. One of them, the details I like, is that Essel wears bells, and that is that was for the unclean and the like pretty much the undesirables, because she's a prostitute.
Really?
And so she has to wear a bell, right? She has to wear bells.
Oh.
So she is clearly recognizable as...
That's why I just thought it was just a costume choice.
No.
That's wild, dude.
I know. So that's
I wonder if he called up Robert and was like, "Hey, my man,
who's your guy? Who's your research guy?
who's your historian? Give me his name."
Robert Eggers says.
Robert Eggers is like, "Dude,
it's me. I do."
He was like, "What?" He's like, "My man, I got you. What you need?"
Get what you need, bro.
Like, okay, I'm doing this medieval movie. Okay, prostitutes got to wear bells.
Prostitutes got to wear bells.
And he's like, "Oh, bells." Okay.
That would be so funny. That was the first thing. Prostitutes got to wear bells. That's rule one.
Rule one.
Prostitutes wear bells.
He's like, they never did that in this movie. And David's like, prostitute equals bells. Okay.
Bells. Okay, got it. But anyway, so yes, there is lots of evidence to suggest there's a lot of research going into this,
which I love. I mean, as we talked about in our Lighthouse episode with Alex, shout out to our Lighthouse episode. Yep. The research helps. You know, it's not just like, even though, as I've said multiple times, I love Terry Gilliam, and even Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You can tell that not much research was given, and they just kind of threw it together.
Yeah.
Of course, that movie, there's a reason behind that. Right. But anyway, but yeah, you know,
research always helps. Attention to detail always helps.
Yes.
And especially in something like this where you have to have knowledge of all the interpretations, pick what you like out of it, and then do medieval research, which on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So not only are you doing legends and theory and, you know, and storytelling, but also factual things that would have happened, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to the year he's coming up on. He's only probably got about, I think, like 2 weeks before,
and he's not
really taking it seriously.
No, and other people are taking it seriously for him.
Yeah,
that are coming up to him and be like, "Hey, don't you have that thing coming up?" You know, and he's like, getting in fights, and he's and this is where you get that clear indication because someone calls his mother a witch. Right?
He's at the pub,
bar, right?
and he's like, "Yeah, you're Sir Gawain." He's like, "No, I think you're mistaken," because he's just trying to eat his slop, man.
Yeah, slop, yeah.
And then someone calls his mom a witch, and he doesn't like that.
No,
he
does
not. Morgan Le Fay is a witch.
Is 100% a witch.
But he doesn't like that, and that's when he gets this great interaction with King Arthur.
Sean Harris, man.
Sean Harris, shout out to the last two Mission Impossible movies. He's the bad guy, as we talked about last night with Fallout. Yep. He's the best, and
so good.
I really love this scene because it shows Arthur in a more vulnerable light because he has descended down from his throne and he's amongst the people.
Right.
And not just amongst the people, he's amongst his family.
Yeah.
And this is when he gets the line that I really like, is it wrong to want greatness for you? Because Gawain's like, I can't do this.
Right.
Like, I can't. And again, with the whole humanizing King Arthur of his whole, when he's picking at his tooth. You know,
his tooth hurts.
My tooth hurts. Because this version of King Arthur is much older. And as David Lowery said, he's pretty much on death's door.
Yeah.
He's not long for this world.
All of those King Arthur stories you're familiar with are long in his past. And he is, coming up on the end.
Yeah. Which I think is great because it also adds to the point of what you said. This is Gawain's story.
Right.
This is not King Arthur's story. This is his story.
Right.
And it's a very smart way to sideline King Arthur.
Yeah.
Rather than kill him off screen or something, just make him much older. He can't do this.
Yeah.
Just sideline him.
Right.
And so Gawain, he's like, all right, let's do this.
And now we start on a quest.
Yeah.
And so another shot that I love is him riding his horse.
That one shot.
Yeah, the wonder away from the...
and the kids are following him, dude.
And that camera just stays steady on him and slowly gets closer. And it's almost like you could feel the foreboding. Like, he is not looking forward to this. He's scared.
Yeah.
Right? And he is trying, so you could almost think like he's thinking about a way to get out of it still.
Yeah. Because you definitely can tell he's like, I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. But there's got to be some way.
And unfortunately, we just yada through the green sash.
Yes.
Which is extremely important. So his mother makes him this, with her fellow witches, this green belt, this sash.
Which all she says is like, she doesn't say it's for protection, but she says it's to wear, and then when he returns, he can hold his head up high with it.
Yeah.
A little foreshadowing.
Right.
But we'll get there.
Right. And so he's got his belt.
Yeah.
And of course, I do like the sequence of getting the items ready, getting him ready for this.
Blessing his shield. And,
right.
Yeah. Now, this is when we get our first, well, technically second trial. Because as we were talking about off mic, there are, as I looked it up, there are 5 virtues that make a knight. Piety, curiosity, friendship, chastity, and friendship. We've already technically seen one trial of piety with him lying to his mom about being at the whorehouse.
Yeah.
But here comes his first really big one, generosity.
And it plays a little into the next one as well, but so the actor's name alludes me.
It's, oh my god, he was in How to Kill a Sacred Deer, right?
Yep.
Or The Killing of a Sacred Deer. He's going to be in the upcoming Marvel Eternals film.
He's in Dunkirk.
That's right, he is in Dunkirk.
Yep.
Holy shit. Yeah, he's awesome. I can't think of his name either.
Yeah.
Future Rain will probably
It took me a while because I know he's British, but it took me a while because I'm like, he has an American accent. He doesn't. But the way his accent works, there are some words that still sound like that flat American accent.
That's not
like, what's he doing that for? He's British already.
Yeah, not like, hello there, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although it does seem that way. He does seem so small because Dev Patel is already 7 feet tall.
Yeah, and he's on a horse.
Right, but with this guy, he's a short guy, and so he looks so small.
Yes, and this guy is credited as the scavenger. That's all he's credited as.
And so he is literally scavenging through a battleground.
Mm-hmm.
No survivors.
Nope.
And he gives Gawain directions.
Yes, and Gawain, thinking that's, he was polite.
He was polite.
I thank you.
Yeah.
But it's not what the scavenger wants. He doesn't want his thanks.
No.
His thanks isn't going to help him get food.
And so what I think makes this a true challenge is he has to really be, he needs to be strong-armed into giving a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Because, it's a little bit of a back and forth, but until Gawain goes, okay, fine, here. And ching,
gives him
like a hay penny. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, very, as we learned it is in a little bit, Tweren't enough. Yes, Gawain, after he gives the scavengers a little bit of money, he leaves and then is confronted by the scavenger and his friends because Gawain didn't give him enough and he feels owed.
Yeah, and also Gawain, I think a proper knight would have compensated him and if he had, the scavenger may have went, hang on, let me give you better ones. Let me give you better directions.
Yes.
Because my directions were wrong.
Yes.
Right?
The scavenger probably would have rethought and been like, hey, you know what, man? He probably would have lied about him lying.
Right, of course.
Hey, actually, I just remembered. It's actually this way.
Yeah.
But Gawain, he thinks it's all, in his eyes, I guess maybe, a peasant needs.
Right, beneath him.
Yes.
Right. And here comes one of my favorite shots in the film, which is when he's tied up.
Yes, they have tied him up and pretty much left him for dead.
Right. And we get that shot where the camera rotates.
And it comes back.
And the lens and the hue of everything gets a little greener as we rotate to see Gawain's skeleton there. And I kind of thought this is going to be the end of Gawain's journey, and we're gonna do something else with the film, because I was like, oh, he doesn't make it. That's interesting. But of course, it's just a.
It's to get Gawain thinking, like, am I gonna really just stay here and die, or am I gonna fight?
Am I gonna do something about it? Right. But man, that rotating shot is so
it's dope,
good.
Dude. What David does with the camera in this film,
Yeah.
After us talking about A Ghost Story, where everything is very static, what he does with the camera this.
I know.
But yes, so Gawain technically has already failed 2 trials.
Yeah. Here comes number 3.
But he decides, I'm not going to give up.
Right.
And he's really left with is just a few scraps of clothing.
Right.
But this is when he has a meeting with Saint Winifred.
Saint Winifred.
Which is an actual story from medieval lore I looked up.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is a real story.
Of her getting her head shot off?
Yes. To those people out there who may have recently watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this is Aaron.
Yep.
Something or other. She is Winifred.
Yep.
And this is his, I believe, curiosity trial.
Okay.
I believe. Because piety is religious, chastity is much later.
Much later.
So this has to be curiosity, because we'll get to friendship, curiosity, generosity, friendship. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I love the sequence.
Yes. So this part of the story is a lot more horror based.
Yeah, dude.
Which I like. Right?
For sure, when he sticks his hand into the spring, I for sure is like, something's about to grab him.
Yeah, something's gonna grab.
But nothing grabs him.
No, it's, I love that she floats to him and doesn't walk, right? Which is so contrary to his, to A Ghost Story, where he didn't want him to glide. He wanted him to walk, right? Yeah. This one's a little different, where, the gliding really does help sell this sort of surrealist situation that he's found himself in.
Yes, Gawain is meeting with Saint Winifred, who is a ghost, as she is trying to retrieve her head from the spring that was cut off, presumably years before.
And by the looks of it, yes.
Yeah, because it's just a skull now.
Yeah.
And there's something in her tale as to why she can't get it.
But this brings me to why I love this style of the story, is that he's not going to tell us. You already have to know, or you're going to find out later. But if you don't already know, it's just another person he comes across.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes a bigger deal when you learn about it later, which makes this film so great, because it's not just good in the moment, but it's great afterward.
Yes.
Right? So say whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, and he technically fails this, because a proper knight wouldn't have done what he did.
He didn't. He asked for something in return.
Which a proper knight wouldn't have done that. A proper knight would have been, I got this.
Yeah.
I will retrieve your head.
No problem.
No problem. No ifs, ands, or buts. But because he's not a proper knight, and he is without honor still at this point, he asks her what he will get in return. Of course, she's a ghost. It's not like any sexual favors.
Right.
But
which I don't think is what he was asking for.
No, I think he was wanting some sort of maybe treasure or
clothing
something. Clothing. But and you could tell she's very offended. Like, why would you ask that?
Right.
But he goes ahead and he retrieves her head. And this is when we get David's use of CGI and having heads talk in this movie is so great.
I know.
Because he walks back up into the house where Winifred was killed, and her skull then turns into her head, and he drops it out of fear. And then we get a little bit more mystery to the Green Knight, because she tells him the Green Knight is someone you know. And he's kind of left with this like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But he then respectfully puts her head back near her body. And this is something that has, what we were kind of talking about off mic, is how does the axe get there?
How does the axe get back there? I don't know.
So we yada yada'd over it. After he beheaded the Green Knight and the Green Knight left, he got to keep the Green Knight's axe because the Green Knight said that the person will be rewarded with my arm, which means his axe anyway. But then when the scavenger leaves him for dead, he takes the axe with him.
Yeah.
And the green sash, which will come back.
Yep.
But then after he puts Winifred's head back, he turns around, and there it is, just waiting for him.
There it is. Almost like, once we get to the Lord and the Lady.
Yes.
The lady talks about why the night is green, right? Mm-hmm. And she talks about how grass will grow where your footsteps were, moss and vine will go on over your
grave,
tombstone,
yeah.
right? Because nature is inevitable, right?
Yes.
And it almost seems like this quest, this game is inevitable. There's no getting out of it. So
even
by some sort of force,
the axe returns.
it has to, because it has to keep going. You have to finish, right? And so I'm almost wondering if it's not something as practical as those scavengers were there before. It's just he has to finish.
He has to finish. He has to return the axe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he continues his journey.
Yeah.
And then this is when we get one of my favorite little characters, his fox friend.
The fox.
I love his fox friend very much because great use of CGI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is really good.
Mainly because I've been playing a game called Ghost of Tsushima, and there's these little shrines that you find throughout the game where you have to follow a fox. Because in Japanese culture, foxes are seen as very wise and as spirit guides, and so you're not meant to harm them. So you have to follow, in the game, you have to follow them to the shrine. But a lot of the times you get to pet them afterwards.
Aww.
And so I love foxes, and so seeing that the fox became more part of the story, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And then this is technically his trial of friendship, because the fox is the closest thing to a friend that he gets throughout his journey.
Right. It's always there with him.
Yes, following him and almost protecting him, especially when he encounters the giants. Which begs the question, were they really there?
I was going to ask, because this is not I mean, it kind of is, but it's an interlude, right? This is the interlude. And this is after he'd eaten those mushrooms.
Yeah, my man was high.
And so I'm wondering if they were there, but a quasi-trial would be he was trying to cheat again.
Yeah.
He's trying to catch a ride, which one could argue, what is a horse then? But
no.
But he's trying just to get it over with and cheat and, hop on the back of one of these giants, which I personally think was a hallucination.
I mean, it makes sense, but
because of the way they're filmed, because they're so far in the distance and they're so hazy, right? I do love the look of the giants. I love that they're bald.
And they almost look like they're stone.
They do. And one of them's holding a baby, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm. And they almost look like they're all women.
Oh, yeah, they do. I think the one holding the baby is a man. But you're right. A lot of them were...
But the fox kind of stops this. He kind of pretty much tells the giant who's coming towards Gawain to, like, hey, no.
Yeah.
Let him walk.
Yeah.
But almost in a protective way.
Right.
Which is kind of strange.
Like, no, don't let him cheat, right?
Yeah.
Don't let him get away with it. He needs to do this properly, right? Mm-hmm. And I love this interlude section because it has that great shot of the camera being upside down.
Oh, yeah.
While Gawain and the fox are walking in that open field.
Yes. And then this is when we meet the Lord and the Lady. Joel Edgerton, who we have talked about so much, who we love dearly.
Big time. He has played Gawain in King Arthur. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, and
that's right. I feel like with Clive Owen, right?
Yeah. And Keira Knightley. It's not
Knightley.
a good movie, but he played Sir Gawain in that.
That's fucking
Yeah.
funny. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I looked that up, and I was like, no shit.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. No Stranger to A24. He was also in It Comes at Night. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah. But this is when things get a little, I don't want to say strange.
No, you can say strange, because one of my favorite things about The Lord and the Lady's House is the elderly woman.
No, we have no explanation to.
And only Gawain seems to see her, which no one else is interacting when they're at the dinner table. She does not have any food in front of her. When there are a couple of times. There's one where she's constantly following the lady around, right?
Yeah.
The lady's there. She's in the background.
Uh-huh.
And in the scene with the sash, which we'll get to, she was there the whole time, and I don't think the lady saw her. Right?
I feel like I did read something that a lot of people are saying that she's a manifestation of his mother.
Right.
Maybe?
Which makes sense with the blindfold, too.
Yeah.
She's in the poem, this woman, this
Okay.
elderly woman. What part she plays in those versions, I don't know, but she is there. So I don't know. This isn't like a David Lowery thing, where
Yeah.
he's just like, let's put her in there. She belongs there. It's just, I like to think that only Gawain can see her.
Yeah.
And-
That makes more sense because he seems to be the only one reacting to her.
Exactly. No one else is. And, which is interesting.
Yeah. But, so The Lord and the Lady.
Yeah.
Joel Edgerton and same actress who plays Essel
Yep.
as the lady. Because
It's Alicia something.
this trial is twofold. This is his trial of chastity. But this is also another part of his honor trial. And it's and that's such a smart move to have the same actor who plays his love interest play this lady who's going to offer him up temptation.
I completely agree. It's the best way to have the audience be in the mindset of temptation, because
Yeah.
it's like, if it was just another very attractive actress, it's
Then
not
you
the
would
same.
just be like, oh, okay.
Okay, I get it. But
having
having that emotional attachment already,
and he recognizes like, oh my God, she looks just like Essel.
whoa, right? But of course, does she really?
Yeah.
Right? And,
Yeah.
this might just be for us, the audience.
Right.
Right? This would be just a normal, like, lustful temptation. But for the audience, we also need to feel that as well. And so having her play the same character,
Yeah.
or the same actress play her.
That would make sense too.
Right.
But this is where things get a little strange, because the lady is already being kind of coy towards
Yeah.
Gawain from their breakfast.
Yeah.
And then the Lord tells Gawain after a hunt, whatever I find out there on my hunts, I will bring, and they will be gifts to you. But whatever you receive here in my home, you will in turn return to me. Which Gawain asks a very good question. How can I give, what would I receive here that you don't already have?
Right.
And I'm going to be honest, when we saw this in theaters, dude, that put me on edge. I was like, oh my God.
What does that mean?
What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the book would be one, because she makes those.
Yes.
Right? So it's not that it was already there.
Mm-hmm.
She made it. And of course, he doesn't give that to him, which he should have, because it was gifted to him, right?
Yeah.
And also the photograph, or
The portrait.
a medieval version of a photograph, or a X-ray, or whatever.
That's wild,
It's
bruh.
really cool. I really liked that sequence, that scene of her making the portrait of him, which he ends up using, sort of.
Yeah.
But really, it's the sash.
Yes.
The green sash makes a return, and I don't know what to make of that. I don't know. She says she has it for him, but she didn't make it. That's the same one.
Yeah, because he's like, where did you get that?
Right.
Because the last time we saw it, and I noticed it was wrapped around the scavenger's wrist. He had wrapped it around his wrist when they left him for dead.
Yeah.
So, unless something about that magic just like with the axe,
Right.
he would need again.
Right. It's almost like the scavenger thing was sort of a
misdirect?
Or not a misdirect, I would say like an accident. That wasn't supposed to happen. So you need these things back.
Okay.
No one was supposed to take them from you, you idiot. You need these back.
Fucking dumbass.
Yeah. And so, same thing with the axe. It's sort of like he needs another temptation. He needs this back to test his honor, right?
Yes.
He needs it to be able to say no.
Right.
And so when when she is masturbating him, and
I've never heard that before. When she's masturbating
when
him.
she is giving him a handjob,
When she is giving him
an HJ,
a downtown high five.
Oh Jesus! She's repeatedly asking him if he wants it, right? Wants the sash, and he keeps saying yes, and that's the wrong answer.
And then she makes him, as she says, I want you to say it.
Yeah.
Because he's just answering her question. Then finally he's like, yeah, I want it.
Yeah.
And then this is when we get, Ashley saw this with us. She did not like this scene, and I get why, and I get why David put it in. She wipes off his excitement.
Ugh.
She his goo.
That's worse.
She wipes it off on his hand.
Yeah.
Which then in turn gets on the sash. And my mom actually likes the line that she says, "You are no knight."
Right.
Because honestly, by this point, he has failed every single virtue.
Because not only did he give in to the temptation of the woman, but also of this sash that's going to save his life and protect him no matter what.
Yeah. And then finally he decides, you know what? I've spent enough time here. It's time to fucking go.
I gotta get out.
Yeah, and this is when he encounters the Lord one last time.
I don't know what to make of this interaction.
Dude, like I told you off mic, man, I think the Lord's just a weird dude. Because the Lord encounters him and is like, don't you have something to give me?
Which he means the sash, by the way, because this is another opportunity to say, okay, here, I won't cheat.
Which, I'm glad you said that, because I was like, did he want him to jerk him off? I mean...
No, although
yeah.
That might be what he was referring to.
But, because he does kiss Gawain.
Yeah, which I don't know what to make of it. I still don't.
I think he's just a weird dude, man.
Okay.
I mean, because he left a freshly hunted boar out there as, like, a sign. But then he essentially tells Gawain that, we won't be here when you come back.
Right. And gives him the fox back. He caught the fox in his trap.
And he gives him his fox friend back. And then this is technically the trial of friendship. The fox speaks and warns Gawain, if you continue on this path, you are going to death.
Yeah.
There is no shame in turning around and going home. Which I don't understand, because I read somewhere or watched a video that this is a test that he fails. Which I don't understand why. Maybe because he swings the axe at the fox to scare him.
Maybe, and it also might be, it's because of the trajectory you're going, the way you're going about this game, you are going to die. You are losing, right? And instead of heeding the advice, instead of listening...
Because the fox even says, then why are you wearing that?
Exactly.
Why are you wearing... And he's just, it's a dirty rag.
Then take it off.
Yeah, if it has no value to you, then take it off.
Right. And he said no. And then swings the axe at the
and
fox.
Tells him that I never asked for your help.
Right. And see, that's where that friendship virtue is severed. Right?
Yeah, because the fox very sadly kind of breaks your heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Puts his ears down and walks away because...
Great CGI.
Yeah, man. Because he knows Gawain will not survive.
And so now on his way to the Green Chapel.
Yes. He finally makes it to the Green Chapel. After all these trials, he has finally made it.
And something that I love about his interactions with the Green Knight at this point is he's just so flabbergasted that, because of how long it took to get there, and when the Green Knight tells him, okay, Neil, let's go. He goes, this is it? This is it?
Yeah.
It's over? Like, what do you mean? Like, we're not going to talk. We're not going to. This is it.
Like, I get here and
what else would there be? Right, is what the Green Knight says.
And Gawain, he pusses out. And the Green Knight tells him, he pusses out multiple times. Yeah. He flinches. He is crying. He is begging for a little bit more time. And the Green Knight is like, did I flinch? Did I beg?
Right.
And he pusses out.
Yeah.
He gets the fuck out of there and he returns home.
Here comes my favorite sequence of the whole movie.
Yeah, I genuinely thought this is how the movie was going to end.
Me too.
And we get this kind of fast forward through the rest of Gawain's life. No dialogue.
Which is great. No dialogue and really just context in visuals.
He is knighted. He becomes a knight. Somehow...
Later becomes king.
I don't know how he has a claim to the throne.
I think because something must have happened to...
Arthur's son.
Right. And then he would be the next one.
Technically, yeah. He would be
because he's the nephew.
He and Ethel have a child together, but because he, I guess, cannot have this kind of blood with her, they take the baby from her, and he marries a royal woman. And then we fast forward some more. His kingdom is at war. His son dies on the battlefield, which breaks him.
Yeah.
And then the final shot of his reign is his reign. His time as king has not been good. Right. The peasants are revolting.
Yep.
And they want his head. And so he
obliges.
He sits alone in his waiting room or throne room, and finally removes the sash. And then this is when we get...
Of course, now, throughout all of this, he has... several people have...
tried to remove the sash.
And he says no. Right? And, there are several moments where we just see it on him. Like, he always has it on him.
Yeah, and we just assume... I assumed, at least, he sees it as a token of his shame.
Yeah.
Which, in the way, it kind of is.
It is.
But, yeah, so we hear the doors break down in his throne room, and he removes the sash, finally. And I was not expecting this at all, dude.
Yeah, and his head...
comes off.
Yeah. And, of course, that wide shot is so good, with his head on the floor.
And his body just sitting there.
Oh, it's so good.
Which is implying that, technically, he did fulfill the game.
He did get hit.
He didn't puss out. But...
He cheated.
He cheated.
And so this was all I guess, not a hallucination, but...
almost like a, where would my life go if I go through with this?
A what if of anxiety and of how do I want to say it? I don't know. But, can't think of the word, but, he's looking back on his decisions and he goes, what will happen making these decisions going forward, right?
Yeah. What if I never learned my lesson?
And it doesn't look good. And so.
And then we cut right back before the Green Knight makes his swing, which I was like, oh my God, there's more movie.
Yes, I know.
And he asks the Green Knight to wait one more second. And he removes the sash and he says, okay, I'm ready. Finally learning it's better to die with honor and die being an honorable man than living a life filled with honor and shame. Right. Or filled with no honor and shame and then choosing death at the end of it. And that is the Green Knight's biggest trial.
Right. And he scratches his finger along his throat and says, off with your head.
And then the Green Knight.
So,
all
right.
Goddamn.
So,
fucking love this movie, dude.
All right, so let's talk about some of the stuff.
Warning, everyone, if you've made it this far, this episode is still going. There's a lot we have to talk about.
So, I want to talk about, we can talk about the implications of that last line first. So, the off with your head.
Yeah.
So, I think some people might interpret that as he's still going to do it. Right. But I like to think of it as you can go with your head, right? Off
Yes.
you go with your head. That scratch he does,
He's delivering the same blow.
right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree because
and of course he smiles because he acknowledges that he was brave. He faced him.
kids even calls him my brave knight.
Right.
Yes, I 100% agree, man. Gawain, even though not fulfilling the virtues of a knight, at the end of it, he maintains his honor, and he is going to be brave, and that's what the Green Knight wanted. He wanted someone when whoever faced him to come, that he wanted him to come with honor, and I think he knew that the sash, he was gonna cheat, but he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this anyway. If you want to cheat, you're gonna cheat.
Yep.
And I think Gawain surprised him, and I think that's why he smiles and is like, you did it.
Yeah.
You did what I was wanting you to do.
Now, when Saint Winifred says the Green Knight is someone you know,
Yes.
I don't think she was being literal. I think she means the Green Knight is here because of someone you know. It's because his mom
Yes, his mom technically summoned him.
summoned the Green Knight to test him on these virtues, to
Yes.
make him a better person.
Yes, to essentially get him off his ass.
Yeah.
People want to know when you're a knight. You don't have the answer, so I'm going to make you find the answer.
Yeah.
It's equivalent to, no one's really going to know this, but like 1 year in high school, my mom followed me to all my classes. I bet you didn't know that.
I did not.
I wasn't doing too good in high school.
Mickey was there the whole time.
She was there all throughout, I want to say, my 5th period. She was there throughout the morning. We had lunch together. And then I think when I got to orchestra, she was like, all right, like, do I need to do this again? And I was like, no, ma'am. And
No, you don't.
no, you don't. I've been embarrassed all day.
Yeah.
That's essentially what Morgan did.
Yeah.
Is she was like, I love you, son. Get off your ass.
Right.
So the only way I can do this is I gotta summon this guy.
Yep.
And I want to believe that going forward, Gawain then finds these virtues and fulfills them.
Yeah.
And becomes not only a better person, but a true knight. And someone worthy enough to take the crown
Right.
the right way.
Right. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, I have a few favorite moments in this film, or aspects. One of them is the elderly woman, who I don't think is really there.
Okay.
Or at least isn't there to everybody else. Right?
Okay.
I love that. But we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
The other one has to do with, and we talked about this before, is the Lord a human version of the Green Knight? Because I've seen that theory around that that he is in human form there to make sure Gawain is going to get there, and is almost, without pushing him forward, making sure he's on the right trajectory and is going to finish the game.
Right.
The only reason there is evidence of this is
He knows his name.
he knows his name, and there are shots with the Green Knight while Gawain is waiting for him to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
His face goes from looking a little bit like Ralph Ineson to Joel Egerton back to Ralph Ineson.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's just me staring at it too long.
I don't think so, man. I disagree. We kind of talked about it. I disagree. I think the Lord is just, I think he's just a weird dude. But I think he's also there to, as I was saying, I think he has heard of the game, and that's why he's like, whatever you receive here, I shall also receive. Because I think he sees it as like an opportunity, I guess, maybe, to get something out of this guy. But we watched that scene together, and his face does kind of shift, And I wonder if maybe it was just David Lowery messing with our own perception.
Maybe.
Like, maybe trying to give us an answer, but not really giving us an answer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because when I first did my research on this story, when the trailer first came out, I wanted to know more about the story. And there's not a lot of evidence about who the Green Knight really is.
Right.
So, I mean, that would be an interesting theory.
Yeah.
I mean, and it makes sense. It tracks that, you know, because then his final words to Gawain make sense. When you come back, we won't be here.
Because he's not usually there in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, it makes sense. I just personally don't agree with it. You know?
Oh, okay. I mean, that's fine. I mean, you're wrong, but that's fine. No, you're fine. We're fine. But yeah, I love the fact that this film not only works in the moment, but after.
Yeah.
If you want to learn more about it, you can, and the story gets better.
Yeah.
From, you know, learning, like just now, when I learned who Saint Winifred was. I didn't know she had her own mythology.
I want to say, like, I read something where that she's a real saint.
Did not know that. And I went to Catholic school. You know, the King Arthur stuff, the Merlin stuff, we didn't even talk about Merlin, who is there.
Hey, Merlin's in the movie.
Yeah, he's the guy with the, like...
the dope-ass under-eye tattoos.
Under-eye tattoos, who takes the baby away...
from Essel.
From Essel, yeah.
A more sinister version of Merlin.
Which, again, I really liked. And, of course, he's a wizard, so...
He's a wizard here?
Yeah. So, as King Arthur gets older... He doesn't.
Yeah.
Which is why he's still there.
And which is also why his mom is also still there, too. In the final shot, when she walks away from him.
Yeah.
Walks away from Gawain. Yeah, man. The movie is so fucking awesome. Like, you know, I really wish people would refer to it as an epic.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, man. It's an epic.
I saw a lot of negative reviews just about the slow burn and about the sitting with it and being in the world.
Then
that's half the fun.
And to that I say, watch a ghost story. Yeah. David Lowery, you know, he wants us to sit with these emotions. He wants us to sit and feel, you know, like. One of my favorite shots is when Gawain is hallucinating on mushrooms. You know, we sit with him for a little while as he's vomiting and he's seeing things. And, you know, David Lowery wants us to feel almost as helpless as he does.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think it would have made very much difference had we not sit with him for as long as we did, or, you know, following Gawain on the journey. It's...
I don't know. People just wanted it to be.
I think it's because
they're wrong, but
I will say, yeah, you're wrong.
They're wrong.
I think it's because, you know, a lot of modern medieval movies are a little bit faster paced.
Yeah, and they're like, you know, giant epics. Now, like, if I could compare thee to
to A Summer's Day. No, A Summer's Day is not a bitch.
To Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
So, depending on which version you watch...
Extended only,
you are sitting, right?
Yeah.
And so
they left in a lot of dead air in the extended, which...
Helps.
Yeah. This is I think it's a 1.5 year journey to get from the Shire to Mordor to destroy the ring. And... yeah, a lot of it's walking, but we have to sit with Frodo and Sam and Aragorn, and like we have to sit with them.
Exactly. And so, like,
Amazon, don't fuck it up.
I agree. I'm not gonna watch it, but I agree. So those criticism, I think, are unfounded because, you know, it's not that, you know, it doesn't make it a bad movie. On the contrary, it makes it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a perfect example, and everyone loves the first 2 seasons of this, is The Walking Dead.
Oh.
You know, the season 1 and season 2, they're primarily in the same place.
Yeah.
And we have to sit with these characters and see what they deal with.
Right.
I haven't watched past season 2.
Really?
I started to watch season 3, never finished it. And then I've heard that it got really, really good, and then it just went.
Dude, it got so good there for a second, and then you're right, it's garbage.
Well, because Andrew Lincoln's gone now. You know.
Well, I didn't even make it that far. I made
Rick's gone.
I made it to where Negan
Decimates Glenn.
So good. I got it to his whole season after that, and then stuff happens with Negan, and I'll go.
Well, now it's syndicated, so it's on Fox now, too.
Unreal.
But anyway, yeah, because, with The Walking Dead, we have to sit with these characters, and you all love it so goddamn much. So, a part of a journey movie, you have to sit with the character, and I'm learning more about that, like with The Green Knight, and, of course, rewatching Lord of the Rings as many times as I have. We have to sit with these characters because we really need to see what they're going through. Like,
yeah.
It can't just be like, I'm going to use Monty Python again.
Okay.
Their journey is very fast-paced. Of course, it's meant to be. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
But we don't sit with them very long. I think the longest we sit with them is the Killer Bunny Rabbit.
Right.
It's just one of my favorite parts. But, yeah, we have to sit with Gawain. We have to live in the mundane.
Yeah.
Because life is mundane.
And it really isn't mundane. It's more, as my dad would say, artsy fartsy. That a little too artsy for dad. Some things are, right? Now, he got through a ghost story and he liked it, so he didn't love it, but he liked it. And so I think
he was just like, okay.
This one will be fine with. But
yeah,
I think that would be a lot of people's complaints, which, again, I don't agree with. But
now, I will say, it seems like the main complaint I've heard about is a lot of people have a hard time with the story as a whole. Because when I raved about it to Mom, she watched it with Scott. And Scott, he appreciated the cinematography, which, you can't not.
Right, you have to.
But he was like, I don't get it. Which I get. The story is very complex.
I had to do research.
Yeah.
I loved it, but I didn't get it. And then once, you do
once
your
you
research.
you get it.
And you're like, oh, got it.
Yeah, and I think, Scott, if you're listening or watching, I'm sorry. I think he is...
He doesn't listen to this.
I think he's the type of movie viewer who... He doesn't want to be spoon-fed, but he wants to get it. He doesn't want to have to do all this extra...
There are types of movies that, aren't for me that I just don't dig. Like, he might not dig, like, the medieval stuff or... this fantastical mythology, medieval stuff.
Yeah.
There are some like that I don't like, even though I just ordered on bootleg because I like bootlegs and I'm trying to support them because they're great. The King with Timothy Chalamet.
Shyamalan?
Because Sean Harris is in this one.
And our boy Robbie Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson's in it. That I'm gonna watch, and because it looks pretty good.
I heard it's great.
Looks pretty good.
I've been meaning to watch it, but yeah,
But I get it. I get the whole like this medieval stuff's not for me. I get that. I would say normally it wouldn't be for me either, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten way into more westerns and more medieval stuff. So,
yeah.
As I've gotten older, that means anything. I'm still in my 20s.
But no, I mean, I agree. And plus, doing this, I've learned that I really like foreign films, especially if the writing's good.
Got to see Squid Game apparently.
I know. Alex says it's great.
Yeah, I trust him.
Watch the first episode and let me know. I'm still on the fence about it. But yeah, man, the movie's
absolutely incredible. It's hypnotic. I love this movie. It's like I basically just watched 2 hours and 10 minutes of Hypnotoad because of how much I love it.
Buy it.
And it really sucked me in. And
yeah, because I remember when we all went to the theater to watch it together, you, Alex, Ashley, and I.
Any other movie I would have left because of how fucking hot it was in there.
Yeah. Also, Regal. Please tell me you've got your AC back on. I've got points I want to use.
I know, dude. They have they did not have their air conditioner on, and
So
it's summertime.
So we're all hot, sitting next to each other, drinking water.
Any other movie I would have left.
But I remember going in and you were like, because I had asked you something about the trailer, and you're like, oh, no, I didn't watch the trailer.
I watched... Oh, I don't think I did.
Because I remember you saying how you loved
David Lowery.
I remember you saying how you loved the crown coming down. And I'm like, I was like, they showed that in the trailer, and you're like, I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it.
I watched the first teaser trailer.
Yeah.
And then I watched the one when they, pushed the release date back. But then that's all I watched. I was like, I don't want any more information about it.
Yeah.
I want to go into this kind of blind. And I've been doing that, thanks to you, I've been doing that more and more with movies, especially with Dune. And they keep, okay.
They keep releasing trailers.
I'm glad Warner Brothers feels very strongly about the movie, but stop it.
Yeah.
I don't want any more, now they're doing it with YouTube ads where they're showing clips from the movie.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, fucking stop it.
Now this is a bit of a tangent about trailers, but and a little bit into medieval stuff because the Tragedy of Macbeth released a 40-second trailer.
Yeah.
Which that's all I'm watching.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will not and I'm sure A24 will release a full trailer. I will not watch it.
I'm not going to watch it.
All I needed was Joel Cohen, Denzel Washington, and the fact that it's
Frances
Macbeth.
McDormand. Oh, and it's Macbeth. For me, all I needed was David Lowery. And once I saw David Lowery's doing a new movie, I go, well, I'm watching that.
Well, I'm done. Well,
and they're like, oh, Dev Patel, I like him.
Yeah. Shout out to Dev Patel, man. Dev Patel has had an unprecedented career as an actor.
Great casting in this, and I agree. Dev Patel, Mom knows him
from Slumdog.
No, from The Newsroom. We're big fans of Aaron Sorkin, as you know.
Right.
And
isn't that the one with
Jeff Daniels?
Jeff Daniels. The one where people were sharing around his whole
That's how the show starts.
His whole America isn't the greatest country, and listing factual evidence.
Yeah.
It
really is. It's it's a great show. Phenomenal writing.
Speaking of Dev Patel, I recently just watched a movie he did a while back called The History of David Copperfield.
How was that?
It's pretty good, actually.
Okay.
It is a Dickinson Charles Dickinson book. It's really good. Great casting. Of course, it's got Peter Capaldi in it, who I love.
Does that one have Jeremy Irons? He's in one with Jeremy Irons. Oh, no, that's A Theory of Infinity, I think.
No, because I don't remember Jeremy Irons being in this. Okay. Sidebar, speaking of bad reviews, a lot of the bad reviews of the personal history of David Copperfield, people thought it was about the magician David Copperfield. And people were like, this is false advertising. Okay, you saw Dev Patel, who's clearly not a white actor.
Well, now that brings up a good point about his casting as Gawain.
Yes,
which I really liked.
Is very, very modern.
Yeah, I really liked his casting. Of course, I'm a fan of Dev Patel, so it could have been Riz Ahmed too. I would have liked that too. But
Dude.
Which
I don't. Well,
no, because he needs to be 8 feet tall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just like what we did with last week, I think Dev was the perfect choice.
I agree
for Gawain. I had mentioned that to a customer at work because I talk about the podcast a lot at work, and they're like, yeah, so have you seen a recent movie? And this is literally right after we had watched it. I was like, oh my god, I just saw.
Let me tell you.
I just saw this great movie called The Green Knight. It is phenomenal. I was like, and one of the things I really love is they made a lot of modern choices in this medieval movie. And I think it was a female customer. She was like, oh, what do you mean? I was like, well, it's an Arthurian legend, and most people have those synonymous with white actors. I was like, but they cast Dev Patel as the main character. And she said something not necessarily racist, but she was like, oh, well, it's to not offend anyone, to make and I was like, no, it has nothing to do with
Dev Patel's good.
I was like, no, it was not a political thing.
Not his first choice either.
Didn't David Lowery say something he had a couple of people lined up, but Dev was the right call. Yeah. Dev was the right call for Gawain. I think I said it in the Ghost Story episode. Lowery knows how to cast. He knows who he wants.
Yeah.
And
a fellow Texan, by the way.
Yeah. Did you also, as a fellow Texan, that just run recently? Selena Gomez.
Oh, I did know that.
She's from Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
She's from bumfuck nowhere, Texas.
She is.
No one lives in Grand Prairie.
No, not anymore because she lives in Hollywood now. So.
Yeah. They all followed her.
Yeah, they all followed Selena Gomez.
Sidebar, that's another one of my favorite lines in Zombieland when he's in Garland, Texas. And he's like, you may think zombies destroyed it, but actually that's just Garland.
It's just
like,
Garland.
that's 100%
That's right.
true.
Yeah. It's like they nailed it.
But yeah, man,
Yeah,
dude.
Lowery can't make a bad movie, man. I highly recommend, we said it last time for Ghost Story, but I recommend Ain't Them Bodies Saints. I recommend Old Man and the Gun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch Old Man with the Gun because I love Robert Redford. And like I said at the top of the episode, I guess I'm gonna have to watch Pete's Dragon now.
Let me know how that goes.
And I want to see this trailer for Peter and Wendy. I don't think they've released the casting for it. All that David is involved, and I believe he's writing the script too.
Okay.
Which he wrote the script for this,
Yeah.
and motherfucker knows how to write too.
Yes. Oh, an Oops, I Forgot. I'm assuming this is the wrap up.
Yeah. We can wrap up with an Oops, I Forgot.
Oops, I Forgot. I loved the Sir Gawain and thing where it did it in multiple fonts.
Yeah, and there's one from the 70s which I loved.
Yeah. Yeah, Sir Gawain, and of course it's the ellipses, and at the very end, the ellipses meets again
With the Green Knight, because the ellipses is always following the title cards.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's Sir Gawain and
ellipses.
ellipses a year too long or a year too short.
Right.
And then, and it's just
Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So good.
so good, man. Dude, for reals. Like, I don't know if I said it in the Ghost Story. I'm glad you turned me on to Lowery, and I'm glad you told me about this movie because you told me about it. I had never heard about it, and you're like, yeah, man, like this movie, The Green Knight. And I'm like, all right, what is this?
Yeah.
Watched the trailer, immediately fell in love.
Yep.
I'm like, yep, sold.
That was it.
And I convinced Ashley to see it with us because originally it was just supposed to be a boys' date.
Boys' date.
But then Ashley was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to see it with you guys. And she loved it. The only part she didn't like was, of course, the jism scene. But she loved it, and it's because it's a very. This is how I'm going to wrap it up. It's a very good tale about really just pushing yourself to be a better person.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
So, Rain,
So Jeremy,
what are we talking about next week?
so next week's gonna be a little bit of a long one because as you did in season 4, yes,
I've done it multiple times.
4. We are going to be doing a 2-part episode.
Two-parter.
As you did with your Man with No Name trilogy.
Yep.
This, of course, is a 2-parter in the sense that there's only 2 movies.
Yeah.
I really thought about it long and hard, man. Which I've been having a hard time, sort of, with this strange films.
Yeah.
But I really feel like this one fits the bill. But also, the movie.
I keep telling you, you don't have to do the strange films.
I know, but I like to participate.
All right.
I want a participation trophy.
Okay.
But the movie and its sequel, kind of talking about last week of waiting too long. This one, I was okay with the big gap because the story in the sequel matches its new narrative.
Got it.
So next week, and of course it'll be released in a week. Part 1 next week, and then part 2 the week after that. We'll be discussing Tron and Tron Legacy.
Never seen either of them.
I saw Tron Legacy first. I knew hints of it.
Oh, you saw Tron Legacy first. That's an interesting choice.
I knew what it was. I had heard about Tron from my mom. I'd heard about it in kind of scattered around like all the Disney movies. And so I saw Tron Legacy first, and I loved it. The visuals are fantastic, of course, and we will talk about the soundtrack by Daft Punk, my robot dads. And you should. I don't know how you'd feel about it, but originally
We'll see.
the pick for my next week, and it was a future pick, was going to be Electroma, which is Daft Punk's movie that followed their Human After All album. It has no dialogue.
Okay, well, I kind of like it.
But anyway, but then then I saw the original, and the original is fantastic. Yes, it's got some cheese to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cheese.
But which we'll talk about next week. I love Tron. I wanted to watch the series that they did, which is supposed to take place before the events of Tron Legacy. It's called Tron Uprising.
Uh-huh.
And it's got Elijah Wood in it. But it takes place before the events of Tron Legacy, and I never got around to watching it. I may watch it just so I can have a little bit. But yeah, man. So cool. Tron and Tron Legacy.
We'll bring our light up helmets.
You mean our hockey helmets?
Yeah, they're hockey helmets, but with lights.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily lights.
I hate you.
But we hope everyone enjoyed The Green Knight. We'll just give it now. If you listen all the way to the end, the movie is spoiled for you, so you should.
We're mad at you.
So yeah, we're mad at you. Mom and Dad are mad at you. But we hope you enjoyed The Green Knight, and we will see you next week for part 1, Tron.